everybody, Dan Illman, Ashley Mailloux, taking a look at one of the main races at Belmont at the Big A on Saturday. This is for two-year-olds on the turf. Let's throw up the field for race number 9. It's the Awad. We're going a mile and a 16th. $135,000 is the purse, and there are some rather promising horses in this race, Ashley. The horse on the outside, Spirit Prince, is still a maiden, but this horse is basically a maiden in name only, already multiple graded stakes placed.
Yeah, looking at his efforts in those graded stakes events, I think he raced very well in both of them. Different trips. He was forward last time out, then two back at Saratoga. He was just tracking the pace, just a couple of lengths off of it. And you've mentioned the field. I think there's some horses that come into this race off of nice wins. Twirling Point being one of them to me that caught my eye. And then you have horses like Move to Gold, who I think we talk about this almost every time a Kentucky Downs race comes up. It's not an easy turf course. He raced very well on debut, and now excited to see him on what I would say is more of a normal track.
And with some two-year-olds, you figure there's got to be pace. Timeform US believes it'll be fast. And when you have a horse like the number 2, Trop and Haagen, in the race, you figure it's going to be fast because he knows one way to go, and that is right to the front.
Yeah, that's his only move. I am a little concerned about what happened last time at Laurel, but there was a little bit of moisture in the track. But I think he's going to be forward from the gate. I see a scenario, even here, you see Twirling Point should be pretty forward because that's what panned out at Woodbine last time out. And a couple of others, Dancing Mischief, British Sea, Spirit Prince, I think those are all the sorts of types that are just going to be probably sitting off of it.
Horse that might benefit from a fast pace is one that will be making his second lifetime start and his first in North America. That's the number 1, Innate. And I watched Innate's career debut. I thought he did some good things. Unlike many European horses, he actually broke pretty sharp. Then he came to hand nicely, sat in the second flight, eased out with a look, and was running on at the end to finish second. A perfectly likable performance, but something tells me this is a class hike.
This is a class hike, and it's just, a different way of going. He's going to go from 6 furlongs over in Europe. Now he comes to the States. He's got to go a mile and a 16th for new connections. I think it's a little bit of a tall task, and one that, depending on what his price is, I would never take a short price on a horse like this just because I think there's a lot of unknowns and maybe some things that he's going to have to work through adjusting stateside.
Let's watch the Speedy Trop and Haagen's career debut. This is at Monmouth Park on early September and took no prisoners. Pressed a 42-1 shot, a horse that finished third in here, takes over the lead in the stretch, and he's getting a little bit green and tired late, but he should be. He did a lot of work in this race. Now, he backed this performance up in the Laurel Futurity. He was the beaten favorite, and I just think he went a little bit too fast on a wet turf course. Can he relax on the lead? That's a big question mark.
Yeah, it is a big question mark, especially the 2-year-olds. Some of them are just very keen to go forward and they're not really sure what they're supposed to do when they get out there, that they continue to kind of move and they don't settle. But I'm hoping he can rebound from his last effort. I agree. I wonder if the condition of the turf course at Laurel did play into that. And he just really hit a wall in the stretch. I mean, he backed up right out of the field. And I did like what we saw on debut. And you mentioned he did get a little tired in the end, but everyone else was scrambling to try to pick up the pieces and he was still 4 in front.
You mentioned the 3, Move to Gold. Here's the debut try at Kentucky Downs for trainer Chad Brown, and this horse ran quite well. He actually made a strong move in upper a straight to get right into contention, and then maybe he just felt a lack of fitness. It was only his career debut over a testing turf course. This is a guy that should benefit from this performance. I think some folks might see the 51 buyer and be a little bit concerned about it, but it was at Kentucky Downs, and these horses, they improve by leaps and bounds.
I agree, especially just pointing out that low buyer at Kentucky Downs. I don't think surprising, especially for 2-year-olds. You mentioned the turf course. It's not flat. It's not a normal mile as well, or even going a little longer. It's just configured so differently. So I don't want to read into it too much. I like that he was able to get between horses in the stretch and still try to advance. I thought that was promising. And just knowing Chad's work with horses next time out, that's a huge, angle to look at in general. But then for him to have the confidence to put this one in a stake, I think that shows a little bit more of maybe what Chad's plans for this horse are.
Trop and Haagen is a speed horse. Blue Creek has none. He could borrow some of it because he fell about 30 lengths behind in the Laurel Futurity. And I think he was pretty fortunate. The pace was fast and the trip was there because he was making up some late ground for third. He looks like a really late developing type. I wonder if this is a little bit too much too soon. But boy, he stays on at the end. I'm just worried he's going to be outrun again early.
And it's interesting, Carrie Bryan, the conditioner here. Obviously, we know she has horses on the flat, also over jumps. And this is one that seems like he can run all day long. But the question is, can he get up in time? He was able to do that in his second career start at Colonial, but then his next race was a total bounce race. Yes, he was 41-1, but he never made a move where in his other three races he's been able to make up ground. So I do like that he was able to regroup last time out, but I agree. I think he liked the condition of the turf course, and I think he got things that played to his advantage that day.
Twirling Point, the number 5, took a ton of money for his career debut at Kentucky Downs in a full field. And I can understand why, because he's a big, good-looking son of Twirling Candy, and he made hay second time out at Woodbine, albeit over the Tapeta surface. What I like best about this performance, Ashley, is that Twirling Point took a very strong challenge on the second turn and then almost immediately rebroke.
Yeah, and I think a lot here too did come down to Javier Castellano. Just put on kind of a riding clinic on this day. I think he had 3 or 4 winners throughout the card, and he got this one to the front, which we know just kind of anywhere you go on a synthetic surface, it's not necessarily that easy to wire a field the way he was able to. But I wonder if having the race under his belt helped. He did stretch out in distance, and he also wore blinkers. Now he did have Lasix as well, which they'll come off. I'm not super concerned about, but after his debut and kind of the issues he had out of the gate, the blinkers made him a lot sharper. And I think to see such a huge performance and that improvement, I think those are really positive signs.
Trainer George Weaver's had a sensational year with his 2-year-olds, especially on turf. We'll be seeing several of them in the Breeders' Cup. Dancing Mischief underperformed a little bit in the Laurel Futurity last time out, and I just wonder if it was a case where the ground worked against him, because his prior outings on turf, and certainly the race 2 back on dirt, showed that this horse has some potential.
Yeah, he certainly does. And I like that you pointed out George Weaver's just numbers this year with 2-year-olds have been basically red hot since the beginning of maybe Gulfstream this year when he started having some horses down there and even Keeneland earlier in the spring. And I wonder what happened last time out. This is kind of a common theme. We either think horses liked the ground or didn't. And for him, it was maybe, a combination of things. But I do think prior to that was racing well. Now, he was a New York bred. He would have to kind of face open waters in that most recent performance. But I wouldn't hold it against him. Obviously, his buyers decreased and declined dramatically, but he has shown some potential.
The 7 is British Sea, making his 3rd start for the always capable Michael Makerbarn. This is a son of turf champion English Channel, who showed some speed in his debut at Ellis Park, ran very well that day. And then if you just want to draw a line through the Kentucky Downs effort, I think you can. He's another horse with tactical speed that should be very close to the pace.
Yeah, I think he'll be close to the pace. I don't think he'll be on the lead. And I think last time out, they went a little bit quicker than he saw on his debut, and he just may be tired in there just from that angle. It's interesting to also see if they'll just go with this spot. They do have him entered in another race elsewhere. But for him, I just wonder how the race sets up if he's going to have to chase again.
Spirit Prince completes this field. And while he's a maiden, you can argue he's dropping in class, because he's faced some really good horses in his last 2, Galibrand and the With Anticipation. And then in this race, I like what Joel Rosario did. He tried to win it from the start, clearing over to the lead from the far outside post. But this Todd Pletcher trainee, Agate Road, kicks like a mule in the stretch, and he's going to come get Spirit Prince, who will dead heat for 3rd.
I think on paper, he's probably the horse to beat. At least he'll be probably forward from the gate, go to good position. And then he's been in those graded stakes tries, several starts in a row. He hasn't embarrassed himself. Now, he does draw the outside in here, which I think the most important thing is him getting a good position early on. But on paper, at least, I do think he is the horse to beat. But I do think there are horses that you can consider for the top spot outside of him.
Let's take a look at the top picks for the Awad, and we're both going to go with this Woodbine horse, Twirling Point. He just was so visually impressive to me. I know it was the Tapeta surface, but he's bred for turf. I just like the way he goes. I like the way he's able to rate on the lead, which makes me think he will relax off of it.
Yeah, I loved the way he raced. I was actually there at Woodbine for the performance, and I thought he looked very good. And at no point did he look like he was really being called upon. He just seemed like he needed to be reminded what he was supposed to be doing. So I think he has the ability to move forward. And from a numbers perspective, he had a 71. It's comparable to the other 2 horses that have something similar to that.
We'll both go 5-8 in the Awad. Race number 9 at Belmont at the Big A on Saturday. Best of luck.